Hello and welcome to Crypto Exposed. 3 ways HBAR could make us rich. Okay guys, let's get into this one. So we have Max Walker Williams here, who is a developer on Hedera with his company Mint Condition. He's actually an entrepreneur, so he doesn't just do like crypto technology and whatnot, like he's doing property and stuff like that, so he's involved in quite a few things. But he's actually the guy who set up the Leemon, Baird and Brad Garlinghouse interview together, so much respect to him. And he's done a post here saying 3 ways HBAR could make us rich, which I'm sure is something that you guys want to hear. So I found this really interesting, so I thought I'd go through it with you guys, and then obviously I can just add my little 2 cents as always into this, because I think it's a good post here, and I think it's definitely something we can all obviously take on board, and just something that's like food for thought for us, right? And see what you guys think as well, of course. So let's get into this. We have the post here from Max Walker Williams, and he says, HBAR's price. I'm starting to realize something. There are 3 ways HBAR could make us rich. 1. We wait for the wider bull market. The tide rises all boats, and we just hope that HBAR rises well with all the others, which I believe it will, but when does that happen, and how much will it rise by? There are many variables, and nothing is certain, except when it happens, the price will rise. 2. We wait for a use case, a governing council member, an announcement, or some other Hedera event that's so revolutionary and / or big that the price of HBAR goes to the moon as a result. The issue is, we don't know if or when that will happen. We've seen some pretty huge announcements, and the price of HBAR doesn't move, in brackets, much. For reasons I don't understand, the crypto market isn't like the stock market where big news equals big price movement. 3. We as a community and as individuals start looking at, supporting and getting involved with DeFi, in brackets, decentralized finance, and DEXs, in brackets, decentralized exchanges, on Hedera. I think if we give these the same support and attention we give NFT projects and platforms, we could make a real difference to Hedera and HBAR's price. Why do I think this? We can earn money by staking, locking up, and providing liquidity on these markets. The more we get involved, the more there is locked up, and the more everyone makes. The more everyone makes, the more likely others are to join. Swapping some HBAR to HTS, in brackets Hedera Token Service, tokens is cheap, and if you know the basics, relatively easy to do on platforms like SaucerSwap. This rewards people who have provided liquidity on these platforms, encouraging them to lock up for longer and others to join. HTS tokens range from casino-style meme coins to solid businesses, and so we can diversify our HBAR portfolio without leaving Hedera and still benefiting from a rise in HBAR's price. In brackets, the HTS tokens seem to rise when HBAR's price rises, and often more steeply. I am going to be making an in-depth YouTube video about this if you want me to. I'll start by interviewing all the HTS token owners I can. Then I'll revisit SaucerSwap Labs and interview the team there. Then we'll put it all together and see what we have and go from there. What do you think? Okay. So, great post in my opinion. Really good food for thought here, and just some stuff to, really take in and think about maybe what can we do, because, at the end, the last point that he made was maybe stuff that we can actually do to help increase HBAR's value and price. So let's get into this and go through some of the things that he was talking about. So I think the most common one that we're talking about here, which is what I think most people are doing, is just buying and holding, right? And they're hoping that a bull run is just going to take them to the promised land, right? And I understand that, because for some people, they don't really want to get into like doing too much. They just want to invest in something and hopefully it makes them a return. Obviously, it requires the minimal effort, right? You don't have to do as much. So it's the easiest thing for a lot of people. And I do understand this. And this is where I will say, just in regards to one of his points that he made, like, just because we're investors doesn't mean that we necessarily have to work. Like, we're not developers. We are just investors. So we don't have to. But I don't want to take away his point from that, because if we do want to help the value rise, we can play a part. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it or anything. I'm just saying it shouldn't really be expected of us. But if you are someone who wants to help HBAR's value really get moving, then yeah, I think that's a completely valid point that he's made there. So as I was saying, just back to the original point, we're talking about the bull run. This is obviously the most common form of people trying to get their value. But this is the thing. As Max correctly pointed out, we don't know how long we might have to wait for a bull run. Now, let's be honest, the market is heating up right now. It is really getting good. But we don't know how long this might take. Like, this could still take a good few months for this to take off. And for all we know, this might not be the full bull run that we expect. Like, I am seeing across the board mixed opinions. Some people are saying that Bitcoin is not going to reach a new all-time high. Some people are saying it will. I don't know. I'm not sure. I hope it's the case that Bitcoin reaches a new all-time high, because that's what's going to help all the altcoins have an alt rally. So my hope is clearly going to be that we do get the alt season and that Bitcoin does go into new all-time high territories. But we will see. So the problem with that is, as we say, we don't know. And then the other thing is, how much is it going to rise by, right? Because even if we do get the alt season rally and HBAR has its moment, how much is it going to rise by? Now, I'll say this. For me, my expectations are grounded. Like, I'm not expecting HBAR to like go ahead and reach like $10 or something like that. So for me, I'm not necessarily thinking in that kind of way. But there might be people who are just thinking that kind of stuff is going to happen and stuff like that. So I think it comes down to what your expectations are, right? Because for me, the thing about saying rich is a very strict definition. And I suppose, what do you class as rich, right? Like, is rich being a millionaire? Is rich being a billionaire? I guess it's kind of subjective. And that's why I'll go more to life-changing wealth, because life-changing wealth is a bit more broad, because life-changing wealth is different to different people. Like, for example, for someone, life-changing wealth could mean if I can get like $40,000, I can put a down payment on a house, right? I've got my deposit for a house. That to someone is life-changing wealth. Now, on the other side, you could have someone who has a house and they could say, well, $200,000 for me means my house is paid off. That's life-changing wealth to them, right? So life-changing wealth is a bit of an easier description for me to use, because I feel like that's more subjective to what everybody's trying to achieve, right? When you just say rich, it's like, okay, just because you're not necessarily going to get rich off of HBAR doesn't mean that you're not going to make great money or life-changing money to you. So it really does come down to what your definition is of life-changing money. Same with rich, I suppose, but I think with rich, like, if you've got like $1,000, like, you're not rich. Like, it's quite obvious, you know what I mean? But if you're like 16 years old, 18 years old, and you've not really got that much money, and HBAR makes you, let's just say, like $5,000, $10,000, that to you could be life-changing wealth. Do you know what I mean? To you, that's like, oh my God, like, I've never had that much money before. And that could begin your whole investment journey from there on, right? Like, you could think, okay, I've done this. What can I make from this $10,000? Let me start reinvesting some of this money back again. Yes, I'll take some of the profit to enjoy or whatever, but I'm going to reinvest some of this back in again, right? And see if I can turn this $10,000 into like $50,000, So there's that kind of thing with life-changing wealth, depending on what you're after. So I find that a bit easier to go with. So yes, in regards to the bull run, we don't know how much it's going to rise by. We've all got our like expectations. Mine is a bit more grounded. So I'm not just thinking like, oh, rich, but I'm definitely thinking I'm going to make a good amount of money out of my investment with HBAR. So depending on how much HBAR you have and what your expectations are, I think that will define as to what really, you're going to make. So obviously, if that's your choice, I think that's completely fair enough. If that's the way you want to do it, I don't think anybody should have to feel like they've got to do anything more if they don't want to. So that is a fair avenue to go down if you want to. You've just got to understand that you don't know how long you'll be waiting for that. And we don't know how much money you're going to make because we don't know how high the obviously bull run is going to go in terms of HBAR's price. So then let's get to the option number 2, waiting for a use case. I mean, we've got a lot of use cases going on at the moment with HBAR and Hedera. Like I've said this many times in my videos, Hedera and HBAR has got like the most diverse utility and use cases that I've seen out of any network. I don't know any network that's got so much diversified utility. It's crazy how many industries Hedera is involved in. It really is. So in that sense, I feel like they've got a very good chance of, something really big coming, because they've just got so many different industries that they're involved in. So all it takes is one. And in my opinion, I already think tokenization is going to be massive. So the thing for me is I already feel like tokenization will be huge for HBAR's value. But again, the problem with this is we don't know how long that could be to come to fruition, right? We don't really know. So the other thing is, obviously he said he don't know if or when it will happen. So I do get what he's saying, but to me, tokenization will be huge. So I'm quite confident in that sense. I do think that there is going to be a massive use case for HBAR, and I think that's tokenization, which is currently already happening on a much smaller scale than what it will be when we're talking like mass adoption. So I do already think that's there for me personally. That's just my opinion. But in terms of when, yeah, I get that, because we don't know how long it's going to take to get the real value of tokenization. Like it could take years for that to come through. So again, you've got that other point. So I do understand what he's saying there. Now, one of the other things he mentioned was the crypto market not really correlating with the stock market in regards to, big news equaling big price movements. I do get what he's saying there to a degree. But the one thing I will say is this, and I've seen this in the stock market because there's a stock that I'm invested in, and it's pretty shocking. Like when you get the quarterly results, right? The company will do well, but the stock will actually drop. It's really weird. Like it was really, really weird. Like I've seen it on a good amount of occasions now where they'll drop their quarterly results. The quarterly results is positive. So I'm like, oh, that's great. Like growing, doing well. And the price will drop. And it's really weird. Now, I spoke to people about this and they said it's because it's not what their expectations are. But I'm like, well, what exactly are your expectations if they're doing well? Like, to me, it's almost like they're expecting like just absolute parabolic growth, which to me is just unrealistic. So I'm like, is that really what it is? Because to me, if you're looking at a company and it's doing well, that's a positive. Like, you shouldn't really need it to be like, oh, it should be doing way better than that, because you should have a realistic expectation anyway. Like, even when you look at companies like Amazon, Microsoft, right? They didn't just grow overnight. It took years for them to really get to where they are. And I think this is the problem. And we'll see this a lot with the crypto industry. When you look at companies and they just come from out of nowhere, like for example, I use Apple as an example. When Apple just started coming through with like the iPod and the iPhone and, they just started to really take over and where they've come to now, for a lot of people, they think it's just one of those like overnight successes, right? Apple has been around for many years, and Apple was in competition with Microsoft, and Microsoft was just completely beating them for a long time. And obviously, it's turned out that what's really helped Apple is going into, iPods and iPhones, like going into that kind of space rather than just focusing on computer technology, right? And so a lot of people think like they see these things happen and they think it's like an overnight success. It's not. It takes many years. Same with Amazon. Like we look at Amazon now and we think, oh, it just come from out of nowhere. No. Like there's interviews of Jeff Bezos back when he had hair, and like he's talking about the very early start of when he had his company, and like there was people doubting him and stuff and like what he was trying to accomplish. And you can see the growth. Like you can tell it's taken years of, commitment. Like I think this interview was like, I want to say it was in like the 90s, maybe like 98 or something like that. Something crazy like that. And so you can see how long it's taken him to get this company to where it is. Like this isn't an overnight thing. And I think that's what we'll see with like Hedera, Ripple, all these big firms and these big crypto technologies. Like to other people, they will think this is an overnight thing, but we've been in the space for years, right? We've been in the space for years. So when it does really take off and you see these companies are like, the pinnacles of crypto technology, they will just think, oh yeah, crypto just come from out of nowhere. Now suddenly you've got these massive companies. No, like this has been years of growth and development. So I do understand what he's saying in that point, but yeah, like I don't really agree that that's always the case in terms of big news equals big price movement, because I've seen it myself firsthand where positive news has happened, but it hasn't equated to positive price action. So the stock market is irrational like that too. And I'll be honest with you, I think the whole point of that, there's like a saying that goes with just investing. It says the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. And I think that's the point, because let's just say things were just obvious, like big news comes out of our company, the price just goes up. Investing would be so easy, right? Everybody would just make money because you just go for the easy things. Like, okay, Amazon looks like it's going to do well, most likely. Let me just invest in Amazon. Oh, good news comes out of Amazon, you make money. Like, it's kind of just easy play, right? Just easy money. And I don't think it's meant to be that obvious because everybody would just make money all the time. So I think that's part of the game with investing. It's a very psychological thing of, can you endure the highs and the lows, that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's just move on to his final point. Him talking about us as a community getting more involved. I think this is a fair point. As I said earlier, I don't think this should be expected of us. I don't think we should have to do that. But I do think if you are someone who's very enthusiastic about HBAR and you really want to try and, help bring value to the token and to your own investment, you can start by playing your part, So as I say, I'm not going to say that this is something that should be just expected of us, but it's an avenue, and it is something that is a very fair avenue in regards to helping bring value. So I don't really disagree with him there. I think if you just know the absolute basics, then yeah, like why not take part? And it's not like you won't be rewarded for your efforts, right? Like you actually do get rewards for staking and stuff like that and contributing to the network. So it's not like you're just doing it with no real reward. You're adding value to the network for one and to HBAR's price, but you also get rewards for, staking or adding liquidity, that kind of stuff. So these are all ways that, really could help in regards to, adding in HBAR's value. So I think these are 3 great points, to be honest with you. There's obviously pros and cons to every one. The last one just being that you've obviously got to make more of an effort. Like, you're going to have to be a lot more proactive, which I think a lot of people just kind of want to buy the token and just hold it and just see how things go, which again, everybody's entitled to do things the way they want to do things. So I'm not saying that anybody's going to choose a particular route. That's completely up to you, but it is an avenue for consideration. So yeah, to me, I like all these points. There's definitely pros and cons to each one. But for me, I think even if you go with the 2, wait for a use case, I think tokenization already is going to be, that alone is going to be a huge use case for HBAR to me in terms of value. And the 1, just waiting and holding. I think even if you do just those 2, to me, I think overall, you will see value. I just don't know how long that could take, but in terms of point 1, we're looking like we're getting very close to possibly seeing some real great price action. So fingers crossed on that. So we'll see. But great points made here by Max, and I do look forward to him doing a video if he does, because I'd like to see what he's going to have to say and just what he can do in regards to, some of these interviews. It'd be good to hear people who are developers and stuff like that and seeing what their points are on this. So definitely something to keep an eye on. But what do you guys think? 3 ways HBAR could make us rich. Do you agree with these points? Which point in particular do you think will be the most beneficial for HBAR's price? Or do you not agree with these points? Is there any point in particular that you strongly disagree with? And if so, why? Or do you just not think any of these points will be good for HBAR's price overall long term? Let me know your thoughts, guys. I'll be interested to hear. Thank you very much for watching this. If you did like it, please remember to drop a comment, like, and subscribe. But until next time, take care.